We all know personalization improves conversion rates, but did you know that with Sheer ID, you can invite and reward consumers based on their groups and affiliations securely? So you make an exclusive offer to a group like teachers, military, or first responders, and Sheer ID's simple checkout integration makes sure that only the right people are able to redeem. The best part is that the process is incredibly simple, and it's embedded right into your brand's checkout flow. Start your personalized checkout campaign today. Visit sheerid.com. On with the show. Hello and welcome to the DTC podcast. I'm Eric Dick along with co-host Kyle Guilfoyle. Today we are lucky to have Dain Walker, who is a brand strategist and Instagram expert who's grown a 200,000 person following in less than 2 years. Dain's Instagram feed has been a big inspiration for us here at Direct to Consumer. And what we love most about it is that every post on his feed is also a very useful tool. He's an expert at simplifying complex, powerful ideas into simple, straightforward content that compels you to swipe through it continuously. Today, we're chatting about how to build a brand on Instagram and how to really make your Instagram feed as engaging and useful as possible. Welcome to the D2C podcast today, Dain. How you doing?
Thanks, man. Super excited to be here. It's a pleasure. And looking forward to it.
Yeah, I wanted to we always like to start with just a question right off the bat. And so you've done some cool things. You built $1 million agency in less than a year. You've built this awesome Instagram following with such top quality content. But I'm curious, what is your sort of like superpower? What's your unique power as an individual that's allowed you to have this success so far?
Certainly networking and sales. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't really particularly talk about them quite a lot, but I've been in many sales and negotiation and networking situations. And I feel that if I was to put one word on it, it would be leverage. How to leverage attention, how to leverage your network, how to leverage your relationships to support you in what you're trying to do. And I don't mean manipulating, I mean leveraging what you have and the resources you have in your, at your capacity. So yeah, passionate about it because I think that a lot of times people, I even ran a poll yesterday on my Instagram and kind of trick people into answering a question, is time their problem or money their problem, and hoping that someone would message me saying that neither were. But I believe it's people's perception about their resources in their immediate environment. They have a disconnect with what they can really achieve. So yeah, my superpower is turning nothing into something rapidly fast by leveraging relationships.
Awesome. I mean, my assumption is that you didn't come out of the womb knowing how to do that. So I'm wondering, what's one thing about that you wish you'd learned years ago?
Yeah, great question. I wish that I kind of, because when I left high school, I didn't value education. So I just kind of would party and drink and kind of just waste my time. And then rediscovered my passion for learning when I was, I would say like 23. In that gap after school, or even earlier, I wish I just appreciated education at a much earlier age. I just had this misconception of what it meant. I wasn't learning things I was interested in. School failed me. They tried to teach me math when I wanted to learn design. I wanted to learn other things. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, do you have an example of because leverage is it's a concept we all get, but it's a very broad concept. You can build leverage in all sorts of different types of situations. Can you give us an example of over the past several months, like some big moment that has benefited your business, your businesses greatly, where you sort of have ramped up the leverage in a clever way?
Yeah, 100%. So there's a guy on Instagram. His name is Mario Trotter. You can look him up. I think it's I'm the Monk on Instagram,
Okay.
or Mario the Monk. I can't remember. Sorry, but what happened was he was an initial fan of my work back when I was unknown, and he was consuming my content, and he messaged me asking if I could show him like some ideas around creating content. We got to talking, and then eventually we ended up collaborating, and I leveraged that relationship. I created his content for free, and the trade-off was he was going to hand me clients that would pay me money. So, that, in my opinion, is leverage. I leveraged that relationship. I gave him something that he valued massively. He gave me something I valued massively. And those initial batch of clients helped me get the momentum to explode my Instagram, and also to put the money and the resources into focusing on that full time. Because at that time, I had a full-time job, and that relationship enabled me to quit that inside of 2 weeks.
I'm curious about a couple of things right off the hop here. One is your full-time job, your background, sort of what led you to where you are today. But also, sorry, this is kind of a two-parter. You mentioned that you didn't really value learning growing up, and I
Yeah.
often I find that when that's the case, there's usually a person or a who somehow sparked something inside of you, reignited that love of learning. And I'm wondering, I think this is the main question here. I'm wondering who that person was for you, or what it was that kind of got that learning flame going for you.
Yeah, man, that's a great question. One of my best friends, Kalen Kelly, I met him when I was, in my early adolescence, and he was an individual. He had a massive network. He was all about networking. He was all about negotiation, and he lived and breathed business negotiating and all that type of stuff. And the cool thing is, anytime he needed money, he would just summon like $10,000, $20,000 just through his network, and I was just baffled by that. And I talked to him one time, and he took me to his house, and he got a plastic bag, and he filled it with like 60 books about business, and was like, here, man, like, read every book in this bag in the next 7 days, or don't talk to me ever again. And I certainly didn't get all the books read, but I picked up one, which was Cash Flow Quadrant, and I read that front to back. And I rang him back, and I was like, I'm sorry, man, I didn't read everything, but I read one book. And he goes, that's all I wanted. He's like, I just wanted you to at least start reading. And that book really helped me appreciate and understand that money wasn't evil. Money wasn't this bad thing, that I kind of grew up with the belief that money was not a good thing. It was a negative thing in my life. And that sparked everything. Because as soon as I kind of realized that I could utilize my resources to collect money and do something that I'm excited about in life, all of a sudden, all these doors opened of things that I could achieve in my life if I just could summon the resources to do the things I was passionate about doing. But then from that day, I kept reading. I hadn't stopped reading since. So I guess that's probably the moment where I started to really appreciate education again.
Amazing. That's Robert Kiyosaki, that one? Or
yeah, Robert Kiyosaki, Cash Flow Quadrant, the same guy that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Awesome. Okay, so just one more book question. I love books. What since then would have been 1 to 3 books that have had the biggest impact?
Most recently, this one, which is the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing by Al Ries. This book is underrated, man. Like, if you're trying to grow a business, you have to understand the principles in here. Awesome book. Other than that, I would say my personal favorites would be the 10X Rule. This book here, the 10X Rule, it's quite a controversial book in many senses, but for me, it did one thing, and that was push me to get outside my comfort zone and take massive action. Just be nonstop relentless about pursuing what it is I wanted to achieve. And another personal favorite is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Again, back to, psychology and how people behave and things like that really interested me. And another personal favorite is The Richest Man of Babylon. That book is really cool. It's all these parables about how money seems to work and operate, and how people seem to handle the idea of it. And it's actually a really old book, and it's certainly something that's not really talked about much either. So I love that book too.
Cool.
Awesome.
Very cool. Shout out. I wanted to get back to your feed for a sec, just because we love your content that you put out, where, it's just built to compel people all the way through it. And so you've got two things going on. You've got your personal brand, which is, which you've really been able to grow. And then your agency, I guess the tip of the spear for that is your ability to do that similar thing for other brands and other businesses. What have your essential learnings that have, like, around Instagram that have really allowed you to kind of build around this idea?
Yeah, I think when I started my account, as I've just expressed, I read a lot of books, and I constantly force myself to learn. I've been to plenty of, live workshops. I've listened to plenty of audio tapes and read books. Like, I really enjoy the process of learning. I really appreciate it, and it makes life a lot more interesting. So for me, when I started creating carousels, it was a great way for me to express my thoughts on ideas that I collected, and my learnings and how they've served and helped me. So I would I know some people out there, they try to find things to talk about, but I tried to keep my content around things that I'd learned and I'd executed and I'd grown from, and it add that personable touch to it, because I was writing from experience, not just from something I read on the internet. And I still try to do that as much as I can, just write about things that are actually things that I've achieved and done personally, or used in some form. So when I started creating my content, it was just about that. And then very quickly, as the page started growing and getting traction, I started learning the behavior and the thought process and the lives and kind of the day-to-day mindset of those who appreciated the content the most. And the shift started to go into what direction of like, okay, this is my target audience. These are the people that really appreciate and cherish my work. And, these are the people that love what I do. And then I would dive into DMs with them, and I'd have conversations with them, and I'd hop on Zoom calls with them and just make friends. I literally was just making friends, meeting people, genuinely just being interested in what they had to say, and just asking them like, what were their problems, what were their challenges, and predominantly my page is like 70% people trying to start their own businesses and they're just flying solo. So they all seem to have a very similar problem. So then I was just collecting all their problems and using things that I knew that were solutions to those problems as pieces of content. And from that, I would notice that people, if I could really help them with a problem and they felt like, wow, like this really helped me, Dain, like I did, my heaviest hitting post was like how to price your services. And it's just a simple math formula that you can use to make sure that you're pricing your products and services effectively. And that's had almost like 1.5 million views. It's still trending. People are still sending it to people. And I posted that like 3 months ago. But that post, like as an example, is, if someone feels that I've really solved a problem for them, they're going to share it. They're going to send it to people. They're going to feature it in their story. So when I made content, I was just trying to think about how can I make an impact, so much so that someone wants to share it and feel that they have to spread the word on that particular piece of content. That was always my intention, just to help people with the challenges they were having. So like you see a lot of people making Instagram content, they're just trying to think about what's going to get likes, what's going to get comments. And you'll see this, people will post stuff and delete it inside the first couple of hours because it's not performing to what they want. But I think if you can get back to the heart of who you're trying to speak to, what's going to make them laugh, what's going to make them react, what's going to make them want to take some action and do something with their day. So that's always the intention, and that's how we were able to really get that momentum on my personal page in the last year and a half.
And would you, I think you just answered this, but as you were talking, I came up with a hypothesis because a lot of folks, they want to get traction on Instagram or really any platform. And my hypothesis is many of them don't get the traction because they aren't doing it in like a spirit of service or trying to actually solve a problem or help people overcome a challenge. A, would you say that hypothesis is accurate? And B, is there something else at play that prevents people from getting the traction that they want?
Yeah, great question. I would say your hypothesis is right. And if you look at any successful campaign when it comes to marketing or branding, it always starts from who we're trying to speak to. Like, and I don't like, typically people answer that question like, as many people as possible. And it's like, that's cool. But like, let's be very specific. Are you trying to speak to women that are 25 that are single and have a child? That's dramatically different to a woman who's 35, married, and has 3 children. Like their behavior and psychology and lifestyle and psychographics are completely different. So if you think about who is that person that you're trying to connect with, it comes a bit more personal. So when you're making the content, you should be very centric on who's that person, or who are those group of people, and what problems do they share in common, and what does their life look like, and everything like that. So I think that, when making content, that should always be the first point. The second point is oftentimes people have the misconception that they're making content directly for those that are going to buy from them. We just to give you an idea, our agency currently, we have 46 active clients right now, like at this moment. And majority of them, when they're making content, their main thing is, I just want to make content only for those that are going to give me money. And, they don't say it like that, but it's certainly like their only concern. And because they're like, oh, I'm spending money on this, I got to make sure I'm getting my ROI. I think that these business owners, and for those that are listening, if you have a business, that I totally get it. Like, you need to cover your expenses, you need to make income, but what's going to make an impact is not that focus. It's the consumer centric focus, which is going to make an actual impact. People don't care about your ROI. People don't care about your business, your intention. So when we make content, we try to make content that is not too wide, like in a sense that we're not going too wide with our niche. We're trying to speak to a certain niche demographic of people. And at the same time, we're trying to make content not for those that are going to give us money. We're trying to make content for those who are in the world of those people that are going to give us money. What I mean by that is 99.9% of my fan base, 200,000 people, are never going to buy anything from me ever. And that's okay. Here's the cool thing. It's what I call rent a crowd. So those 199,000 people, they're going to be ambassadors. If they appreciate me, if they enjoy my content, they're going to be the ones to put my piece of content in their story. They're never going to buy anything from me, but they could take my content, put it in their story and be like, this is amazing. Then their fan base, there might be a guy or a girl in there who sees that content and goes, man, this is the guy to solve my problems. They're going to DM me, go through my pipeline, and eventually buy something. So it's the rent a crowd principle. We try to teach our clients, like, yeah, we want to target those who are going to give you money, but more importantly, we need to target the people that have the problem in this space to kind of spread the word and massage your message through communities if they really appreciate your content.
I wanted to ask about I was in my previous position, we were building some slideshows, and we were looking at some other people of exactly like best practices and a little bit of the mechanics of Instagram carousels, essentially. Like, and I know you may have a more naturalistic approach where you're just like, I'm telling a good story and it'll take as many carousels as it takes, but are there any sort of tips or tricks around, okay, you got to get them past that third slide or something, because if they go to the third, they're going to go to the seventh? Is there anything around the mechanics of these things that you really have to think about when you're building them in order to try to get that level of virality?
100%. Yeah. So, because there's people out there that make better carousels than me and do amazing things and put out content, and they don't yet have the traction on their page. Because I've been doing it for a long time, I have a lot of people like that are already fans that kind of like, I could post something pretty sloppy and people will still go nuts over it. You know what I mean? So we have to be aware of that I have to continue to force myself to not concern myself with those who are fanboying me, but focus on, okay, are we actually solving a problem with this post? So, I mean, the mechanics of it, I would say the most important thing is the first slide. Like, the first page has to have people stop the swiping. So they're going through their feed, swiping really fast, looking for something worth looking at. And, you have to have potentially a color palette, a typography, an image aesthetic, something that is similar to when you go on YouTube and you get a wall of videos in front of you. Like, what are you going to click on? Because usually it's the one that has the most interesting or the most striking or the most clickbaity title, where I have to know the answer to that question, or I have to know the answer to that statement. So I try to think of, and I've done this many times where, Joe Rogan moved from YouTube to Spotify. And then I wrote a post and I had a picture of Joe Rogan, and it said how Joe Rogan became $1 billion brand. I think it was something about he's now $1 billion brand. And that post went viral because people were like, what, Joe Rogan? Like, I need to know what's happening. So we certainly,
right? That's like,
yeah. So we try to jack into trends. And the other big one as well is, like, when I get a lot of DMs and a lot of inboxes that people are asking the same question again and again and again, they have the same problem. I know if I can somehow include that problem in the title, like the title somehow denotes that I'm going to solve that problem that you have, and it's vibrant and interesting, those posts go viral as well. So for those that have a new page, you can't really gauge that yet because you don't have the size audience that you need to really measure that. It's once your page has momentum that those tactics really start to take off. But initially, if you have a feed, when someone lands on your first 9 tiles, when they go to your feed, do the first 9 tiles look interesting to them? Does your bio speak to them? Like, they're probably the most important things initially before you start moving into those other tactics. But when it comes to the carousel, if I was to break it down, we use the AIDA method, the AIDA method, which is attention, generate interest. So after they swipe that title slide, it's the next slide is that going to encourage them to want to swipe again. So typically I use the first 3 slides to, to say something pretty bold or really interesting inside of like 1 second each slide. So I basically want them to see the title, go swipe, swipe, swipe. Because typically if they get past the 3rd slide, statistically, they're going to finish the whole thing. If the first 3 slides are interesting enough. So I designed the first 3 slides to be really quick to swipe through. That's why I don't have like a lot of text on page 2 and page 3 of the carousel. I usually leave that towards the end. And yeah, I want them to be able to digest it and consume it and read it very quickly. If each page looks like an article, they're not going to read it, which can be difficult sometimes because some people try to lean on the visual aesthetics to keep people swiping. But interestingly enough, the copy has to almost paint a picture in their mind or say something very interesting. So the copywriting is really important. So typically, yeah, the first 3 slides, I'm just trying to get their attention and generate interest. Then I'm trying to fulfill their desire somehow by answering a problem or talking about the problem. Typically, I'm almost always talking about some type of problem that they have. Like, this is the problem you have, and this is how it feels, and this is the repercussions, and this is where it goes wrong. Then at the end, usually page 8 or 9, I solve it in some interesting way. And I typically use diagrams or pictures, something more than just text wherever possible. I noticed that Chris Doe's page does really well because he does really interesting, or he used to do really interesting diagrams and breakdowns so people could see it visually. And really, you can say a lot more with a visual than you can with a small paragraph. And then slide 10, CTA, encourage them to drop a comment. And this is really important too. Like slide 10, I try to think of a question I can ask them that, again, I'm trying to clickbait them to want to answer the question, to want to throw in their opinion, to want to throw in their 2 cents. And I think it's so long as you can, have a really interesting title, really interesting copywriting, go a bit harder at the end when it comes to page 8 or 9, go a bit more in depth. You can certainly write checkpoints or some type of criteria or some type of process. And the reason I put that, if you go to my page and look at slide 8 or 9 on each carousel, what I'm trying to do in that point is I'm trying to get them to want to save it. I put in enough information that they know they're not going to remember it, but I want to make it valuable enough to be like, wow, there's a process I can follow, save. Or, okay, there's a checklist. I'm going to need to remember that. Let me save it. If I can get that save metric, that really helps with the performance of the post as well.
Yeah, I think I'd read somewhere recently that that's like the new hot metric, or the one that really the algorithm appreciates the most is when people save.
Do people revisit? Is there any data? Because it's funny, we were just talking about the amount of prints we get on our emails, or the amount of they're great metrics. But I'm wondering, does anyone ever go back into their saved posts, and do we have any data on whether people do that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I know they do. I remember looking into it. It's very minimal. Like, it's not a crazy amount. But there are people that certainly do. I think there's it's a small percentage. It's like 3 or 4% or something. Come back and actually revisit the post. I guess depending on the value of the content, maybe it's a bit higher. If someone's like a real enthusiast and a real fan, they might have more of an inclination to do that.
I just have one more, based on what I'm hearing here, and here's another hypothesis or hunch, is that there aren't really any growth hacks beyond just creating useful content consistently. And I'm wondering, if that's true, but I'm also wondering about hashtags, because I think I've been hearing somewhere that like hashtags don't really matter all that much, or I don't know. What could you just give us a skinny on hashtags?
Yeah. It's certainly it's certainly something that unfortunately has been preyed upon, because people acknowledge that most people feel that hashtags are confusing. So you see a lot of YouTube videos teaching how to use hashtags, and there became a trend around, you just got to fix your hashtags and your content's going to blow up and you're going to become a millionaire and blah, blah, blah. I certainly think that hashtag is nothing more personally than a filing system. It's you telling the algorithm, this is where this content belongs. This is, this is where we need to file this piece of content. And you're basically trying to tell the algorithm, these types of people that typically consume these types of hashtags are the ones that are going to be interested in my content. And the interesting thing about the algorithm is it's crazy intelligent. Like if you do some research on this, the algorithm that looks at the photos, like just the piece of software that reads the photo that you upload, or the image that you upload, it actually pairs that image. Let's just say you take a selfie, it pairs that image with a database of over 3 trillion other photos that have been uploaded into Instagram, and categorizes it based on the colors, based on what elements it can pick up on. Like if you take a selfie and there's a tree line behind you and a skyline, and then there's a Mercedes on the street, it can actually read and tell what model that Mercedes is, what color it is. It can tell where the tree line is. It knows that it's a selfie based on you've taken a photo yourself. So it's already putting it into a filing system the minute you hit upload. Then the hashtags are just an additional layer of you trying to tell the platform this is where this content belongs. Because the entire function of the algorithm is it's only going to show users what they're interested in. If you're interested in looking at pictures of Baby Yoda all day, then the algorithm's going to eventually pick up on that you're interested in Star Wars, you're interested in those types of hashtags. It's going to continue to put those things in your feed, assuming that you keep commenting, engaging, and saving that stuff. So where the save is important is that if they save my content, it's them telling the algorithm, I really value this. Show me more content like this. So when I post again, they're going to see it again. So that it helps that trend. So yeah, when thinking about the algorithm, you just got to think about hashtags as just a filing system, just you telling the algorithm, hey, this is where this content belongs. You're certainly going to get eyeballs from that, and it's certainly going to perform well, assuming you have a lot of engagement in the first 3 hours. The comments, the likes, the saves, the DMs, everything that kind of happens on that post is almost like going to give you a score on how well your hashtags should perform. So typically when I have a piece of content that's doing really well engagement wise, and I don't just mean comments, I mean like holistically everything that's happening on that post, then those hashtags will, from what I've noticed and what I've researched, they will typically perform better. And also how Instagram thinks that you fit into things will also dictate how well your hashtags perform. So I typically stay in the realm of marketing branding with my hashtags. And if you like literally after 3 hours of posting, I'll go in and I'll check every hashtag when I can. And most oftentimes I'll be able to identify where my posts are performing. So for those that are listening, if you really want to get good at hashtagging, check out flick.tech, amazing resources. And that's one place when you post something, that piece of software will tell you, hey, out of the 30 hashtags you used, these 5 hashtags actually performed. These other 25 didn't. Those 5 that performed, maybe it was because that's what Instagram thought you were. Maybe it's because that post was doing really well, or maybe that's because a couple people picked up your post from that hashtag, and all of a sudden, if you go to that hashtags page and a lot of people are clicking on that post, it's just going to move it up the up the totem pole. So a loaded answer to a simple question, but in summary, I would say hashtags are not the most important thing. I would say they're probably like 15 or 16 on the list of priorities when it comes to Instagram.
But that flick tech that you mentioned, I think, is a really good insight for people, because I think a lot of people don't even know that exists, right? That you can actually get that level of data on which ones are working for you.
Yeah, because if you and the other thing as well is it'll tell you what hashtags it doesn't like. Like it'll actually say these hashtags are banned or these hashtags are disliked by Instagram. Don't use them again. Stuff like that. Yeah,
I shouldn't put the punchlines of my jokes in hashtags like my uncle did in 2010. I realized as well. Hashtag disappointing.
Bad idea.
But okay, I wanted to, so, we are a content enterprise that sits on, inside of an agency right now, where we're creating content with our newsletter and with our podcast, and business filters into the agency. I assume you have a similar funnel. You've got this amazing content. You say 70% are maybe sole proprietors, and you have a course for them, which is amazing. And then I'm sure through the rest, you have interesting opportunities on the agency side. Can you tell us a little bit about your process, like what kind of clients you work with and what your process is like with those clients?
Yeah, great question. So the agency we've got quite a handful of people now, and we're still growing. But we have web designers, copywriters, graphic designers, people that help with research and branding and strategy and funnels and marketing. So we have quite a wide scope when it comes to the agency. But as far as process goes with our page, my intention is to put out content that serves the purpose that we just previously talked about, which is, solving problems for those freelancers and also simultaneously solving similar problems for those that run an enterprise of 3, 4, 5 people. And a lot of people that are quite business savvy typically don't use social media for entertainment. They typically use it to try and gather additional resources. This wasn't the case 5 years ago, but certainly now it is seen pretty common that social platforms are used for education now as well, which is cool. So, we get a lot of people that run surprisingly like quite substantial companies, like multi-million-dollar companies, people that run, real estate agencies, people that are trying to create that they have a lot of money that they're now starting up a coffee roasting business, or they're a personal brand and they're making $700,000 a year, but they don't have the resources to build their website and all this other stuff. So we typically get a lot of people that are personal brands that have money and that also they're starting something up, or they're at a point where, and these are the three things: the startups, the people that are personal brands, and the businesses that are getting stuck with their growth. They might have a team of 10, but they just can't seem to figure out how to get themselves to open their next shop. So one of our clients, they build like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 Land Cruisers, and we're doing marketing for them. And they're about to open a second shop, but they don't have their website sorted out. They don't have their social media sorted out. The CEO of that company used to film himself and his wife working on trucks and putting on YouTube, and that got them all their leads. But now he's running a team of 20 people in the next 6 months, and he's like, I don't have time to edit on YouTube anymore. What do I do? How do I scale this out? How do I outsource this? So we get a lot of people DMing us from our content, and this. If I was to package this in its simplest format, is make content that creates conversations, have quality conversations with that audience, and then decipher, who of those are going to be worthy clients and who of those are just fans of your work. So we extrapolate those who are, what we would deem as worthy clients by putting them through a filter. So we post the content, they consume the content, they DM me, yo, Dain, I like this piece of content. I'm struggling with my business. I don't know if they're a freelancer that doesn't have money, or, a CEO of a company. And I go, hey man, tell me about your business. Tell me about, what you guys are doing. What are you struggling with? I'll kind of read it and chit chat with them a little bit. And then I'll send them a link to my website, and they'll go to the website, and there's a questionnaire. And I say, go to my website, fill out the questionnaire, and you'll book in a call with me and my team. And that questionnaire that's the filter. That's the thing that I'm trying to identify. Do they have the money or not? So if they go through the questionnaire and they're kind of displaying that they don't really have the financial resources to buy anything from our agency, that's when we then refer them to the academy. Hey, it seems that, we still get on a call with them. Hey, look, it seems like you don't potentially have the resources yet to purchase our agency products, and that's okay. We have an academy. We have a weekly call where we can teach you how to be resourceful with what little you have and how to grow your business from nothing, because we've done that too. So our business is unique. Our agency is unique in that sense that we teach those that don't have resources how to do it. And then on the other side, we have big business that do have the cash to do it. So teach you how to do it yourself, or we're going to do it for you. So that questionnaire, usually we have, quite a large number of people filling that out every day. Those that, I guess, qualify the questionnaire go through to a 1 hour consult with our team, myself or another team member. And then we'll take them through our process and our suite of products, through identifying their problems and legitimately trying to find out what is the correct solution for that problem, whether we can serve that or not. On the product side of things, we do websites, logos, branding, content creation, market research. We build funnels, we build campaigns, we do strategy. We design collateral. We do a lot of design work. So we have a lot there. I didn't do that 6 months ago, but there's a lot there. So we don't really promote that on Instagram, because we just want to keep Instagram consumer centric, because we know that if people have genuine problems, we can take them on that journey to discovering how we can help them with the agency.
I wanted to direct your attention to d2cplus.co, where we have $1 trials for our private membership community, where you're going to get access to all of our amazing workshops and challenges like the Influencer Flywheel Challenge, the Automation Challenge, and the Standout with Snapchat, our Snapchat challenge that we just finished recording. You'll get a full course library. You'll get access to our private group. You'll get access to these podcasts when they are recorded, where you can ask questions live. You're going to want to join d2cplus.co, and you can do it right now for $1. So you should go there right now, d2cplus.co, join for $1 only, and get all of that awesome D2C goodness.
Just one more question before we get into some roasting here. And this will be for the agency owners. I hear a lot of what you just said and all the things that you do, and it kind of scares the shit out of me, because if I were in your shoes, I would. How can an agency owner avoid feeling like they're always making stuff up? You know, like every new client, it's like, whew, you got to like get your head into their world. You got to understand the pain points of their customers, et cetera, et cetera. And then you got to like create solutions and across all these different platforms, blah, blah, blah. So what do you guys do to avoid feeling like you're always making it up?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, imposter syndrome, feeling like we're not worthy, and all those things. And we certainly have had those moments where we're like, man, this client's out of our league. Like, how do we gear ourselves up to help them as much as we can? So the core of our brand as an agency is always like doing the right thing is always the right thing. So we know our heart's in the right place. And there's plenty of projects where we've lost money. You know, majority of our projects we made money on, but we're confident in the outcome, because we know if we fail the initial project scope, that we'll just jump right back in to square one and rebuild it again in a way that they're going to be happy with. So we communicate that with clients from the start. Now, from an agency side of things, I guess if I was to simplify this as much as I can, the process to avoid the entanglement of, you know, the difficult things that ensue when you have 46 live clients, is to systemize and autonomize everything we possibly can. Anything that could possibly be systemized, we'll look for a way to do it. You know, so we use a framework on Monday.com, and we use another framework on HubSpot, and HubSpot links into literally everything. You know, so HubSpot is our, I guess, our AI, our brain. You know, it prompts us and reminds us things. So long as the team is utilizing HubSpot effectively, it's going to remind them of deadlines. It's going to remind them of notes of the clients. It's going to have collected pain points of the clients, the client's expectations. So I think it's very important for agency owners when new clients are coming in, that you collect as much data and you safe keep it as best as you possibly can, because, you know, when you're juggling 10 or more clients, you start to forget what each of them need. I'm very lucky in the sense that I've got really great team members around me. I'm not the one pulling all the strings. I certainly know how to get attention and how to sell and how to network and leverage. But, you know, I got people on my team that are better at me at management, better at me at leadership, better at me at design. So I think it's really a matter of putting great people around you that kind of fill the gaps where you're weak. So one of my weaknesses is like juggling a lot of things simultaneously. So Tyson, you know, my business partner, is like a maniac at juggling tasks. Like the guy can build the most extravagant spreadsheets you'd ever seen. So he's tracking data and crunching numbers, and that's not my thing. And you know, I'm lucky to have him. And Carlos, you know, he has this crazy process with which to put together websites and stuff like. So to summarize it, to make it in its simplest form, to not have ourselves overwhelmed, you have to have systems, you have to have frameworks, you have to have protocols. You know, and you have to have decentralized commands. Jocko Willink talks about it in his podcast. You have to trust your team to know what they're doing with their thing. You know, so where possible, we delegate things that we can to the team. If they're capable of doing it, even if they muck it up, it's okay. That's okay for them to learn from that, because they're going to grow as people as well. So we try to delegate what's possible. We certainly rely on each other in a team, and we put all the data we can into HubSpot to remind us and prompt us what we need to be doing.
Amazing. I did an event earlier this year with Chandler Welling. Do you know him? He's Welling Media, runs a creative shop as well. He did a presentation for us on organic traffic. He brought up one of his clients, which was an auto apparel or an auto outfitting company, essentially. So you could do all sorts of different things to your trucks with these products. And he'd driven some insane number of conversions of sales for them, millions of dollars, just by having a really good organic feed. And I'm wondering, like, I'm sure your approach varies client to client, but is this sort of the mentality you take because you come from, you know, this organic background of where you've built up this big following? Is that an approach you sort of focus on with clients first, that things kind of emanate out from organic, or do you sometimes just jump right into paid?
Yeah, we certainly jump into organic first because we want to help them establish brand, and we want them to understand that it's not just about ROI. It's not just about hunting that paycheck, but it's about, okay, do you have a community around your business that support and love what you do? And most oftentimes they do. So then it's just nurturing what they have already. Just looking at, you know, not overlooking who's around them, not overlooking their current clients, because sometimes their current clients might want to buy additional stuff. You know, so we jump into their Instagram pages of our clients and we look at ways that we can create content that's going to speak to their community, speak to their audience, speak to their fan base, and just try and make the first focus establishing brand, establishing a presence, and then getting involved in the community in some fashion. And once the momentum really starts to take traction, usually it takes about 90 days on Instagram specifically to really get a good sense of how their page is going to perform and grow. We just collect data and run reports and check out what content was engaged with the most, and then go all in on that. So usually after 90 days, that's when we start looking at paid campaigns. That's when we usually look at pivoting and kind of going a little bit harder on things, because we want to, I guess, experiment, at least initially, experiment a lot to try and see what works, what doesn't work, before we have them pour in too many resources.
One of the neat insights he had, just one last thing here, was that I thought was interesting, was as a you know, we're a buying shop first. I come from a performance marketing background, all about buying the traffic and optimizing on the back end, essentially. And so sometimes when you have an organic post and you want to put a budget behind it, you know, you have to make sure that you're going to keep that post so it has all of the same social proof on it. You don't want to, you know, lose all that. So we're very precious about the momentum of individual posts. But he was sort of saying, he's like, when you have a post that wins, he's like, it doesn't, he's like, you can post it on another day and it'll do as well again, because it's not really about the magic juice behind the post. It's about the content in the post. And if the content in the post resonates once, it'll resonate again. It doesn't really matter the technical momentum of it. It's just really about the content.
Exactly. Yeah. If it's fire content, you put money into it, it's gonna do well. You know, like we with my page, if a post is like blown up, we're like, yeah, we're gonna put money in that. Like, no doubt about it. Like, because if it's gonna perform really well, we know that if we put money into it, that's gonna generate enough additional ROI to justify the money spent on it.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Here we go. We're going to try something. Most people listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
So if you're listening right now, you can follow along. You can just go to our Instagram, into our Instagram handle. Like we're going to first just take a quick look at, are we doing it? Is this happening?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So we're in Dain. So first of all, if you want to follow Dain, while we're here, you make sure you find him at Dain Walker with a DAIN. And then, so here we go. This is just the D2C. We've just started putting a little bit of attention into this. So if you want to follow us right now, we're on Instagram.com/DTC newsletter, which is our Instagram handle. Honestly, we've been building our subscriber base through ads, and these 3,000 followers that we've generated in the past 6 months or so are just sort of passive from that, you know. And then so we've just started to put a little bit more energy into this stuff. So there we go. We'll start with this first one. We got Angela, our head of UGC. So this was one that we had some debates on this one, because if you click through this post, you'll see. Okay, so the post is, "Hey DTCers, today's value rocket is all about comparison charts. Comparison charts are extremely effective at helping customers understand why you're better than competitors." First of all, there's a few apostrophe errors in there, which I think, which I just noticed. So first slide, we start with a beautiful girl. That's always a good option, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Certainly clickbait. Yeah, my initial impression is, I would say slide one. If I was to critique UGC's school, like, for those that see this, that don't understand, it would appear, as in my personal opinion, it would appear a bit advert like. So I would look at how could we have a title that is just 100% about the consumer, like a direct, like, you know, if it was to say how to solve X, or, you know, how to deal with this thing here. So I, you know, like quick tips, like that's a bit more interesting, but I appreciate the design. I appreciate the time invested. I like the colors. I like the deep blues and the turquoise. But my suggestion, just by you scrolling through your feed, is looking for ways to have the thumbnails really grab people's eyes, that don't look alike something they'd seen before. I think that if you can accomplish that, it's really an effective way to grab someone's imagination. The top three posts that I see here, I think that there's too much text. I would certainly just have something real simple. And the third one at the top there, again, it feels very markety. It feels very advert like. I would encourage you guys to go a bit more on the side of what does the user want to see? What do they find captivating? What's something they're going to tap on and get excited about?
I think that's great feedback. And it's honestly like, as a marketer, you know, as someone who, you know, we put up content all the time. And so, and we're always putting it out from the perspective of the guest or our perspective, but really fighting to get through to the way this is going to land and what problem it's going to solve for our audience, and really make that crystal clear in every post. That sounds like the feedback here.
Yeah. Can you just click on that first carousel, the UGC school, and just go to the second slide of the carousel?
Let's see.
Yeah.
So this, we were just talking about this, and all that we basically did was take newsletter content, and just add it to this. And it's educational. We've had a ton of saves. I think that was one thing we noticed on this, KG. We did have a lot of saves just because it's so much content.
Yeah.
But I was sort of saying my feedback was, we've got to reduce the text by 90%. You know, we got to get down to like 90% less text. I'd like to add some like more design elements that compel people through, whether it's like, you know, those arrows that go between two slides kind of thing. Rip this one apart.
Yeah, man. Way too much text. The first two slides, they're going to take more than, you know, 5 or 6 seconds to read. So someone would probably swipe and just maybe feel like, man, I don't really feel like reading, and they're just going to exit right out.
I see.
You know, so you need to think about like, the first slide, first and foremost, need to grab their attention in a really dramatic way. Like, think about YouTube titles. The second slide, it has to be like a real simple sentence or a simple quote or something that's like that makes the viewer go, what? Like, oh, that's interesting, and swipe again and really build that momentum. So you need to think about almost like the way a snowball would roll down a hill and turn into a landslide. You kind of want to save the landslide of text till the end, and just kind of snowball it through so that you can kind of gain momentum. They can kind of come along for the ride. You got to cut the fat with the text. You got to think of how can I say the same thing with one sentence?
Yep.
I know that can be challenging sometimes. Because here's the thing, you don't have to give the viewer all of the nuggets. You just have to pique their curiosity and allow them leaving the carousel going, I just learned a little something. I learned a different perspective. And the slides, I would certainly do 10. This will allow you to have less on each page, and try to break up the monotony a little bit as well, so that it's not just a paragraph per page. And then, of course, the last slide, got to have a CTA that's really simple for them to want to engage with.
Nice. That's great feedback there. And I think the snowball, it really hit home for me with the snowball mentality there, where we really, you know, you want to pique their interest. So like, instead of UGC school, it would be like, you know, what's the highest converting possible kind of ad format or something like that. Like something that would, or even like something even, what's even better?
I would say like, our ads stupid ? And then have just a wacky picture of some kind in there, and then people would potentially get offended. People would potentially be like, what? Like, if I saw that, I would certainly click on it, because like, our ad's stupid. Like, and I would go through it, and it could. Here's the thing that I think is really powerful as well, is trying to add a theme to something. So versus just going, here's education, here's the principles, the steps. I would like, one famous example is, instead of going, hey guys, how to grow Instagram, I wrote Instagram samurai, how to become an Instagram samurai. That post went viral because everyone's like, yeah, I like samurais. And, you know what I mean? So then I had all these had all these really crazy cool images of like a quote from a samurai, how they lived, and these really cool Japanese anime aesthetics throughout, and I think people really appreciate the creative ingenuity of that. Yeah, so I would certainly say that try to add a theme, try to offend people, try to be polarizing, and like Gary Vee does this all the time. You'll see the first 5 seconds of his video, and you're like, that's really offensive, and then you watch and get the context. You're like, oh, it's not offensive. He's actually just helping someone.
Ads are stupid if you're not using UGC kind of thing, right? Like
yeah,
that's how you'd finish it. Like you are stupid if you're not using user-generated content in your ads, basically.
Yeah. So you need it. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it together, because not everyone knows what UGC is either.
Exactly.
So you have to think about the everyday audience, those that don't understand the lingo. Can they read it and appreciate it?
And that's what we're getting, I think, too. Like obviously this, not job seeking, but sort of like a money online scene is the broadest part of the internet marketing funnel. And we've always focused as a B2B enterprise, sort of like, for clients and really building in that agency space. But we're realizing that this whole D2C space is just broadening so quickly with how low the barriers are to entry and how many other types of professions in the world are becoming unviable. So I think there really is an opportunity for us to broaden our funnel. And that's something that we constantly have to remind ourselves, is that nobody knows all of our stupid acronyms. Like, nobody,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're constantly, our ROAS is this and our this. But I think we have to keep reminding ourselves that there is a much broader audience that we can be accessing with this content if we pivot in the right way.
Yeah, and you have to think about as well, like, can you make content for the world of those that would potentially be interested in what you guys do, not just the direct consumer. The last thing I would say is the profile pic. Got to fix that. And I would look at how can you make some more striking colors in your feed. Like the background behind you, for those that are listening, there's like this bright mint, this bright turquoise gradient all the way through to like a blue palette. Whereas on the page, I'm just seeing black and like a very dark green. So as you scroll down, there's some really interesting colors. But yeah, I would try to think of there you go. There's some more mint and stuff like that as well. But
we've made it more drab on purpose, so we'll have to. So tell me about the profile picture. What, like, give me what do we got to do for the profile picture? If you're not watching, it's a cardboard box. It's literally our logo on a cardboard box.
Yeah, so I'd make it so that those that see it in its small form, so like when you're on a mobile phone and you see that the notification feed come up, is that going to get drowned out with other people that are potentially engaging with that individual's content? So maybe just having a really bright, vivid colored background that just has DTC going across it, or even better, maybe I would suggest maybe a photo of you guys together, faces side by side, adding that personal touch that, hey, we're people, we're not just a logo. One thing I noticed when we launched Victory Front was that the Victory Front page did not thrive anywhere near as fast as my personal brand did, because people on Instagram typically 95% of the time want to follow people. They don't want to follow a logo, because the logo comes with, this is a business, this business's intention is to make money. So if you can make it about the people, have photos versus a logo, I think that's always a strength as well. And then again, the name newsletter, I would try to find something that maybe says something a little bit different, because people's concept of a newsletter could be that something of which is dated, or something of which that is old, or people's perception of newsletter could be many things. So I understand that you guys are using that, but that's one other thing I would look at exploring as well.
Should we rename it the Eric Show or something?
Something that yes, yeah, dude, just to make it all about Eric.
My last name's Dick. That's an opportunity we should be taking, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, like there's other duos. I'll send you guys some examples. There's some other duos on Instagram. I don't know if you guys are duo or more than that, but yeah, certainly try to add that human element to it.
Amazing, and not just from our oddly homoerotic Fight Club picture.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I gotta appreciate it.
You better not drop that soap. I'm coming for you.
Dude, I used to have that original photo on a t-shirt, the Fight Club. Dude, that's really funny. Yeah, you guys need to lean into the duo thing, man. Yeah. You need to kind of play into that a bit more, I think.
Nice. Oh, I love it. I love when we get free consulting from the world's best experts on the podcast. Do we have any questions? We have a few people watching live with us here, including one of our lead social managers over on the Pilot House side, Sierra. Yeah, let us know if there are any questions in the audience. Anything else from your side there, Guilfoyle? Anything we should have asked Dain about your world that would have been good for our audience?
You mean about your page and
No,
about
about
what you
you.
guys?
Just is there any? This is one question. This is like our laziest question, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
like,
sorry.
did
Yes.
we forget to ask you something that you think we should have asked?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when it comes back to like Instagram specifically, for those that are looking to get attention on the platform, again, got to be consumer centric. I can't preach this enough. You have to go into the world of those that you are trying to speak to, and as much as possible, talk to them and ask them questions about what do they value the most, what do they see. Try to quiz and survey, and you could do this on SurveyMonkey too. You could try to create a SurveyMonkey account and just try to make an educated guess of who the target audience is. But every client we talk to, they appreciate this, but they don't really run with it. You have to think about who is a target audience, because as soon as you start posting content that doesn't align with that, if your page doesn't feel like it's hitting a certain note every time it's playing a certain song, if the song starts changing, if it goes from metal to classical, it's gonna be fuzzy. The audience aren't gonna really understand what the intention of the page is. So I think really laying into Instagram in a one specific way, like what do you want to be known for on Instagram? And if you could be number one in consumers' mind for one thing on Instagram, what would that be? And how can you put that in a lingo, in a language that's a bit more universally appreciated, other than those that are going to buy from you? Hopefully that makes sense. I know I'm throwing a lot of lingos and complex thoughts at you, but yeah, I would say just go all out on that. And you can't go wrong if you're listening to people jumping into the crowd and really building relationships with those that do appreciate your work. So I think relationships is everything when it comes to Instagram. Certainly the algorithm in 2021 appreciates the dialogue between you and those that can consume your content. So there's a lot of data coming out that basically says those that post and jump off the platform don't perform anywhere near as well as those that post and like DM and communicate and go live with their fans. So I think, we've had clients that have pretty near the same business. One client is engaging with their audience all the time. The other one never does. And we're talking about 100,000 followers on this page inside of a year and 2,000 on this page. That's how big of a difference community engagement is, like getting involved with the fans. I got a really crazy post I'm doing today. It's going to be really funny. I do believe I'm the first to have ever done this on Instagram. So stay tuned. It's gonna be wacky, but you gotta surprise your audience, guys. You gotta do things that are just funny and silly and kind of wacky. You gotta maintain their attention, and you have to experiment. I don't subscribe to just carousels nonstop. I think that there's so much more that can be created with content. But if you get consumer centric, if you jump in the crowd and imagine you're hanging out with these people, you can't go wrong. Like that's the best way to learn how to grow a brand on Instagram. 100%.
Totally, yeah. And if that's on a cliffhanger, I don't know what is. But just one of your other insights that I thought was really valuable was when you're on Instagram, I think you said treat it as though you paid $500,000 to be there or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's how I treat it. And people went crazy over that, man. Like I had stacks of DMs, people going, "Oh my God, that makes sense." And I think that, we take social media for granted. Gary Vee has this, I can't find it, but he has this epic thing where he talks about how, we're so lucky because we can go home after work and we can promote a business all night long, 24/7 on the internet. And if you go back to our parents and their grandparents, if you look at our grandparents' generation, they didn't have the internet. They finish work, they go home, and that's it. They can't build a side hustle. They can't build a business from home. Maybe they could do something on the weekend, but they were dramatically limited with their time and resources in that generation to do anything. So I think that if they had access to the internet back then, like what impact would it have had on their generation? So I look at Instagram as a multi-million-dollar business. And I did that when I had nothing. I made a promise to myself when I started posting content, I'm going to treat this like I bought it. I'm going to treat with the same tenacity and the same veracity as if I took out my life savings of $500,000 and I paid for an Instagram account. How would I treat it? I would sure as hell find a way to make it work. And the analogy is if you spent $500,000 to open a cafe and the first 2 weeks it didn't do well, you wouldn't just be like, cafes don't work, this is stupid, throw in a towel and close the business. You would find a way to make it work. So the analogy is that, don't give up so easily. Just get ferocious about how can I make this work if I had to give it everything I had.
Such a great perspective.
I love it. And when we look at it, we are, like I say, we're mostly a paid shop in terms of how we grow. But I look at where all of those users are coming from, where they're continuing to engage us, and Instagram is the #1 channel. And so I really think I'm gonna, taking this to heart and really looking at how we can solve answers for our clients. Like we've just been having this sort of passive growth where we're buying subscribers, and then people find us and they happen to subscribe. But I feel like the next time we chat in 6 months with some of these tactics in place, we could not be at 3,000, but we could be at 30,000 or 40 or 50,000.
I got no doubt. No doubt. Like guys, just get crazy with the people that do engage. If you got 5 fans, like what can you do to blow their week away? And it can be very simple things like just giving them a shout out on a podcast, or jumping on their feed and making a post or a carousel about how dope their page is. And that person's going to become a fan for life. That person's going to be like, oh my God, these guys are fantastic. So how can you win more fans? The best article, the best piece of content I've literally ever read is 1,000 True Fans. If you've not read that article and read it like 30 times to really absorb what the guy's saying, that could not be truer. So for those that are looking at, like I've built a 7-figure business out of Instagram. That's it. Like I don't have any other platform that I'm utilizing any attention on. I'm not running ad campaigns. I'm just boosting posts that perform well. So it's entirely possible, and it's not too late. And I think that we're in an era now where it's not one dominant platform, where it's like Netflix. People just choose the platform they like to surf on because it fits their lifestyle. I think we're now in that era where it's okay to have multiple platforms working simultaneously. So you just got to find that medium that works for you and your voice and your message and your fans. And again, who are your fans? Are they even on Instagram? If they're not, like maybe they're on YouTube. We had a student in my academy yesterday. She's teaching French. And I was being real. I was like, are your fans even on Instagram, or are people that want to learn French going to YouTube, how to learn French? Your fan base is probably there. That's where your energy needs to be. She's like, I hate being on video. I'm like, that's okay, but that's where your fans are. So, I think that we just got to be honest, and we just got to get ferocious and get after it, man. Hopefully this helps people.
Yeah, man. Great advice. I think in the book recommendations alone, it's going to help people. When you layer in the Instagram tactics and the general goodwill, I think this goes down as another great podcast for the D2C gang.
Thank you.
Dain, where should we send people to check out to learn more about you?
Yeah, just go to my Instagram handle, Dain Walker, DAIN Walker, and you can send me a message, reach out to me, I'll talk to you.
Okay, simple as that.
Yeah.
All right, Dain. Thanks for coming on the D2C podcast today. Thank you for wearing a hockey merchandise apparel. That's something as Canadians we always appreciate.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you soon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Bye. Cheers. For now.
Bye.